Self-sacrifice or altruism is the world's biggest problem and misunderstanding. Now, I've been meaning to make this a priority, and it's actually been a very difficult subject to complete since the pandemic in 2021. This is a very, very, very sensitive subject. So just listen. Most people will react if it's something they don't like, and you will never really listen to learn something new. You will only listen to react. Remember, this is not just for you or about you. This is about helping thousands of people better understand. And fortunately for me, I'm not doing this to convince you. I'm doing this because you learn better by teaching. That's how life works. So, let's get into it. I see this word altruism being disguised as helping others to have meaning in your life. Altruism does not merely mean helping others. It is sacrificing yourself for others, placing the interests of others above your own. Now, that may seem quite humble, and you might say, what is wrong with that? Well, to have regard for everyone else except yourself is like saying, what is wrong with suicide? Well, why is the well-being of others more important than your own? Because there's a very subtle distinction here. You are extremely selective with whom and what you love as a human being. This means because your capacity to love is very little, the less you are able to love, the more disconnected you are with life, the more you are willing to do anything. That is quite insightful. You won't really hear that anywhere else. So the definition of self-sacrifice or altruism is the need to serve others in order to justify your existence. That is like saying you are nothing more than a sacrificial object. Or more bluntly speaking, an animal to slaughter for the sake of being food. Anyway, sacrifice means you have value over somebody else. You are giving up something of value for somebody else. In other words, if you value yourself less than somebody else, you are not sacrificing yourself, you are suiciding yourself. I know that may sound a bit extreme, but if you do not hold any value over your well-being, it means you do not love yourself. If you do not love yourself, you are suiciding yourself, not sacrificing yourself. A very important distinction. So the question is, why is then suicide an act of helping others, you might say? Very interesting question, but very important. It is as simple as some must die so that others can live. You might think this sounds heroic, but it is not. Suicide is another word for giving up your responsibility. So then why do we want to give up our responsibility so easily and willingly? It is easier to not take responsibility because it is hard, obviously. It is easier to be a victim. It is easier to be average. It is easier to watch greatness and be inspired by greatness than to be great yourself. It is easier to be a part of something bigger than yourself. And this is the important thing. I hope you're listening. Which is why suicide feels like selflessness. Very, very, very important. Suicide and selflessness is two very different things. Somebody that will suicide does not care about others sacrificing each other in the case of war or pandemic because he does not care or value himself enough. On the other hand, somebody that is selfless will not sacrifice others for selfish reasons because he will treat others how he treats himself. When somebody tells you to do something for the sake of others, if you value yourself over taking any uncomfortable risk of your well-being, you have every right to say no. No matter the facts, no matter what is right or wrong, no matter what. This sacrificing others for the sake of others is manipulation. Do you know how many countless lives are lost due to so many different kinds of manipulations? War for the sake of others, pandemic for the sake of others, religion for the sake of other religions. Millions and millions and millions of people die because you think you are selfless. Instead, you and others have basically been influenced to sacrifice yourself. Let me finish. The main problem is that selflessness means less ego. If you want to do something without the world telling you what to do, then do it. Don't go and force others to do something just because you agree with what you have been told. This is where it gets interesting. A very important quote. Nothing in nature lives for itself. Rivers don't drink their own water. Trees don't eat their own fruit. The sun does not shine for itself. Flowers don't spread fragrance for themselves. Living for others is a rule of nature. This sounds very obvious, right? But see, there's an important keyword here. Living for others' sake. Not sacrificing or suiciding for others' sake. You need to get this. This is one of the most dangerous subjects in the world. Pay attention and put the effort into understanding this, or you are just the same as murdering others for the sake of others. If you don't understand entirely what I've said here as a whole, just watch it again with less reacting. If you do not understand self-sacrifice or altruism for the sake of others, don't expect others to do what you tell them either.